Liam Livingstone Test cricketer. How does that sound?
Yeah, pretty cool. Yeah, just obviously really excited for the week to come. It's something that growing up as a kid, whenever I was playing in the garden, round at Barrow Cricket Club as a kid, you always pretend that you're either playing in a Test match for England or you're playing in a World Cup for England. So having won a World Cup maybe 10 days, 2 weeks ago, to then make my Test debut tomorrow, yeah, it's been a pretty special time in my life, I reckon.
I saw your dad was, tweeting before the World Cup final that he was on his way. Is he coming, or does he just go to the glamour destinations in Melbourne and Sydney?
No, it was a trade-off. He didn't know which one to do. So yeah, I said maybe Melbourne might be a little bit of a better option. So no, I guess.
But it's quite a thing, because your family, given where you are in Cumbria to Old Trafford, that's quite a slog, isn't it, as you're a young cricketer growing up?
And I guess the biggest thing for me this week is, certainly from my perspective, it's probably not about me, it's about my mum and dad. Mum and dad have taken me 2 hours down the motorway, 2 hours home, 3 times a week for 3 years while I was still at school. And yeah, I guess it's always nice to play for England, but I think Dad's always wanted me to play Test cricket. So yeah, it'll be a very proud moment for me, just knowing that I'll have filled in with a lot of pride this week, and that's the cool thing for me. So yeah, it's obviously going to be a proud moment for me, but certainly this week is all about them too, and all the hard work that they've put in over the years. It's going to be pretty special for me to pay them back a little bit.
Of course, in the last couple of years you've been known more for your white ball skills, but you mentioned the dream of playing Test cricket as a young man. You know, as you were watching cricket, as a teenage boy, it's pre-T20, pre-IPL, so Test cricket would have been the thing when you were growing up. That was the dream.
Absolutely, and I guess Test cricket's never not been a dream for me. I guess your career just goes down a different path, and it did. I went down a white ball route to get into a World Cup squad, and I had to do that. The only way I was going to get in a World Cup squad was to go and experience all these different franchise leagues and make myself a better player and try and make myself a better person. And I guess having come into the squad and falling straight back out when I did in my debut in 2017 or 18, whenever it was, yeah, I guess going away and yeah, experiencing all these different things, going and playing in IPLs and PSLs and playing in the Big Bash, it changes your game. It made me a better white ball player, and ultimately it's probably made me into someone who's become a world champion, and I guess that's the coolest thing for me. And but don't get me wrong, the dream of playing Test cricket had never gone. I just thought it was going to be very hard for me to realise that dream, and thankfully Baz and Ben have taken Test cricket down a pretty cool route, in my opinion. And yeah, I guess it's up to me to repay the faith that they've showed in me and my skills and my game.
So you made a very deliberate choice to become more of a one-day cricketer, limited overs cricketer. Which means that you haven't played a first-class game for over a year. I mean, Ben quipped the other day that when you took your white pads out of your cricket case, you kind of looked at them slightly quizzically. What are these? Is there any concern that, having not played first-class cricket for so long, as you go into a Test match, or not?
No, and even if there was, I don't think Baz would allow it. I've been very impressed in the environment that's created at the moment in the Test squad for England, and the way that both of them speak and think, and it's very much the way that I think about cricket. And yeah, when you're getting a telling off for blocking one or leaving one, it's quite good fun to be around. So yeah, I guess ultimately the way they want to play their cricket, they want people to watch. And I guess white ball cricket's all about entertainment, and hopefully we can bring a bit of that entertainment into red ball cricket, and I guess the boys already have all summer. I was sat there as a fan in the summer being entertained by the lads, and I guess ultimately that's what Baz and Ben want to do, and yeah, it's pretty cool to sort of be in and around it and be involved in that, and hopefully I can bring some entertainment to it too.
Will you have to change, batting-wise, will you have to change your game at all? I'm not talking really about approach and mindset, which is clearly going to be aggressive, but the technical aspects of the game, T20, if you're thinking principally about whacking it over mid-wicket, you know, you might have a different technique in a first-class game. Will you change, and is there any concern that if you do change, that'll slightly mess up your white ball game or not?
No, I won't change too much, to be perfectly honest. I guess 50 over cricket I don't see too dissimilar to Test cricket. I guess whatever you do, whatever situation you go in, some of the World Cup games we went in and it was nipping around and boys had to play differently. But yeah, certainly the messages from above I certainly don't change the way I'm going to play. And I guess when you've got backing like that from someone like Baz, it's quite inspiring. And yeah, I always knew I've never worked for Baz. I've never played under him. I've never played against him, I don't think. But yeah, to have someone like that who has full belief in your game is quite special. And yeah, like I said, hopefully I can repay that faith that he's shown in me. And yeah, he's made it very simple for me that there's no need to change the way I'm going to play.
And from a bowling perspective, you're a backup spinner to Jack Leach, maybe Joe Root as well. We see you in T20 cricket having developed this quite novel, you know, role, spinning it both ways depending on what kind of batsman is in. Is that how you'll go about it in Test cricket as well, or will you become principally one type of bowler with a variation?
Yeah, I guess just having the two skill sets, and it's something that I've worked hard on over the last 5 or 6 years for probably this sort of moment. I guess it's made me much more selectable white ball cricket wise, but certainly for Test cricket, I guess just having the two different skills. I've done quite a lot of it for Lancashire. My last full red ball season, I played quite a lot as a first spinner, and yeah, I guess, you know, having the options, having the different ways of bowling.
Spin does play a vital role in the subcontinent, and obviously
yeah.
Despite the fact that in 2021 you might have bowled a lot, you're relatively inexperienced as a spinner at this level. No concerns there?
No, there's no concerns about anything, because ultimately there's no way of failing with Stokesy and Baz. The only things they talk about are positive, and it's such a refreshing environment for me to come into. And I guess ultimately for me, it's how do I affect the game for England? If there's rough outside, a left-hander's off stump, can I bowl leg spin into the rough? Yeah, I probably can. So yeah, ultimately it's just how do I get the best out of me as a Test cricket? Maybe that might be different to what I am as a white ball cricketer, and I guess work with Ben and whatever he sees fit and whatever I think is the best option at that time whenever they need me is to do my best for England. And at the end of the day, that's all I can do, as long as I go out and enjoy it, play with a smile on my face like I've always done whenever I've represented England, and give 100%. And at the end of the day, if it doesn't go well, I'll be able to look back on and say that I give it my all. And but yeah, I guess the sort of the belief and the backing that I've had from Baz and Stokesy is it's quite inspiring for me, so hopefully I can repay them.
I spoke to Brendan McCullum, or we interviewed him the other day, and he said, I think his words were that the skipper's done well to coerce Liam into playing, and I don't think by that he meant you were reluctant, but I think he meant that Ben Stokes put the full force of his personality to try and persuade you to keep all formats and all options open as long as possible. Would that be how the conversation went?
The conversation was actually very simple. He asked me if I would be interested in playing Test cricket, and I answered yes. And that was it. Did I expect it to result in selection? No. But he asked me if I wanted to play, and I said, yeah, if the opportunity comes up, I want to play Test cricket. And yeah, it's been a childhood dream. I'd be very stupid to say no without ever experiencing it. So yeah, like I said, I'm just really excited for the week coming up, and I guess the different challenges that I'm going to face is what gets you out of bed in the morning, and they're certainly going to be very different than what I've experienced over the last couple of years.
And you did have a little experience in England's Test squad way back in 2018 in New Zealand. You spoke a lot in this interview about Stokes and McCullum. Clearly there's a very different vibe, shall we say, from how it was 4 years ago. Very
different, yeah. And I guess the biggest thing for me is I'm a very different person. I had a lot of red ball experience, a lot of success in red ball cricket behind me going into that series. this I haven't played for 18 months or whatever it is. But the biggest thing that I wouldn't change is the experience I've had over the last 2 or 3 years in international cricket and IPL cricket. That certainly makes you a better person and yeah, makes you a much better player. So yeah, I guess the experiences I've had, hopefully that will stand me in good stead. And listen, I'm just going to enjoy the week. I'm going to play with a smile on my face. It's something that I've dreamed of ever since I was a kid. There's going to be a lot of people back home that are proud of me this week, and yeah, it's quite a special week for me. My granddad goes into care this week, so so it's going to be nice for me knowing that yeah, I'm going to make my family proud, and that's ultimately the biggest thing for me.